When Satan accuses, will you still stand? The Book of Job. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim came to present themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came also among them. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Where comes thou? Then Satan answered Yahweh, and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that fear Elohim, and eschewed evil? Then Satan answered Yahweh, and said, Does Job fear Elohim for naught? Hast not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. And Yahweh said unto Satan, Behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Satan went forth from the presence of Yahweh. Job 1, verses 6 through 12. This narrative was not just penned by human hands. It is a message shaped by the Ruach Hakodesh, the Holy Spirit, using Moses as a vessel. This is why the authorship appears unknown, because the true author is divine, and the story carries layers of meaning beyond the surface. There is no such thing as supernatural powers, in the sense the world portrays them. All power granted to us is natural, rooted in creation itself, and given by Yahweh. It is up to each person whether to submit that power through faith for Yahweh's purposes, or to distort it by aligning with Satan. The worldly concept of supernatural powers often glorifies rebellion, deception, and illusion, which are rooted in the belief system of the adversary, not in truth. The Book of Job belongs to the wisdom literature of the Hebrew Bible. While some traditions attribute it to Moses, the human authorship remains uncertain, but its wisdom is timeless, and its message operates on both literal and metaphorical levels. The introduction in Job 1 verse 1, There was a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job, reads like a parable from an elder teacher, inviting students to listen closely and discern deeper meaning. Job's name and setting may not be about a specific person in history, but about a character meant to embody righteousness under pressure. The cosmic dialogue between Yahweh and Satan is more than a heavenly courtroom drama. It is a metaphor for the internal and external battles of good versus evil, faith versus doubt. Satan, whose name means the adversary, is a symbol of opposition, roaming the earth, representing the constant challenge to human integrity and faithfulness. The sons of Elohim, divine beings or angels, appear before Yahweh in what can be understood as a heavenly council, a metaphor for the spiritual realm where divine will is discussed and decreed. Satan's presence there reminds us that even evil must operate within Yahweh's boundaries. He can only test what Yahweh allows, which highlights Yahweh's sovereignty even over adversity. Satan accuses Job, claiming that his righteousness is shallow, based only on Yahweh's blessings. The hedge around Job is a metaphor for divine protection, and Satan suggests that once it's removed, Job's faith will collapse. Yahweh permits the test, not because he doubts Job, but to reveal the true nature of faith, faith that endures, even when stripped of comfort. The story is less about Job's historical suffering and more about the spiritual truth it illustrates, that righteousness is not transactional. Yahweh's people don't follow him for wealth or comfort. They follow him because of who he is. The stripping away of Job's blessings is a metaphor for the refining fire of faith, where only what is real and eternal remains. Satan's role as the accuser points to the reality of trials and temptations in every believer's life, but the story reminds us that Yahweh places limits on the enemy. Satan may test, but only to the extent that Yahweh allows, for our growth, not our destruction. As Hebrews 12 verse 11 says, adversity is part of our spiritual training. It disciplines and strengthens us so we can be shaped into vessels ready for Yahweh's purposes. Adversity is not the end, it is the classroom of the righteous. Conclusion. While some may read Job as a literal tale, its metaphorical richness invites us to look deeper. The conversation between Yahweh and Satan frames a profound spiritual question. Why do the righteous suffer? And the answer unfolds, not with easy explanations, but with a call to deeper trust. Job becomes a metaphor for every believer, challenged, stripped, but never abandoned. The accuser, Satan, is not just a being, but a symbol of every voice that challenges our faith, including our own doubts. And Yahweh, in His wisdom, uses even the voice of the adversary to refine, not destroy His people. So agree with your adversary in the way, not to surrender, but to understand the battle. Know your enemy, know your trials, and know the one who holds you through them all. For the real power is not in escaping suffering, but in enduring it with Yahweh and coming out with faith proven and unshaken. Poem titled, The Story Beyond the Dust. This book is breathed by Ruach's flame, not ink alone, nor earthly name. Though Moses' hand may guide the scroll, the author is the Spirit's soul. No wizard's wand, no mystic light, no supernatural power or might. All strength is born from Yahweh's breath, a gift of life, not packed with death. Choose now to walk the narrow way and use that power and faith each day. For when it's bent towards self and sin, that's when the adversary creeps in. Job's tale begins in Uz, they say, a righteous man who sought Yah's way. Yet more than man, this tale unfolds, a parable the teacher told. Have you seen my servant Job? Yahweh asks the one who roves. The accuser, Satan, roams the land, testing hearts with sleight of hand. This courtroom scene, a stage so grand, where angels meet at Yah's command. And Satan enters not with might, but metaphors of trial and fight. He challenges the soul of man, says faith is built on comfort's plan. Remove the hedge, he dares to claim, and watch your servant curse your name. But Yahweh, knowing Job's pure heart, allows the trial, lets it start, not to destroy, but to refine, to test if trust is truly thine. The hedge, the test, the roving foe, each one a picture meant to show that suffering, though undeserved, reveals the faith that's deeply served. This adversary, this ancient voice, speaks not just once, but in our choice. In every doubt, in every fall, we hear that whisper, faint but small. Yet Yahweh speaks the louder word, a truth more lasting, deeply heard, that trials shape the soul within, and righteousness endures the wind. So when affliction tests your frame, and you are stripped of wealth or name, know this, it's not the end, but start of faith refined in Yahweh's heart. The power's not in charms or spell, but in the Ruach where you dwell. And every trial, every flame is just a chapter in your name. So rise, O servant tried and true, the adversary's eyes are on you, but greater still you seize your stand, held by his everlasting hand. Sermon titled, The Adversary's Challenge, a Test of True Faith. Shalom, beloved. Today I want to talk to you not just about Job, a man in the land of Uz, but about you, about us, and about the very battle for faith that every servant of Yahweh must face. The story of Job is often read as a literal history of suffering. But what if we stepped back and looked at it through a different lens? What if this story isn't just about one man, but about a spiritual metaphor, a divine parable about what happens when the adversary comes to test the faith within us? Number 1, the invisible counsel, a picture of spiritual reality. In Job 1, we read that the sons of Elohim presented themselves before Yahweh, and Satan came with them. Now this might sound strange, but consider the metaphor. This scene represents the divine oversight of all spiritual activity. The adversary is not in control. He must present himself before the Most High. This isn't a horror story, it's a lesson. Yahweh is sovereign. Even Satan must report. And that tells us something powerful. Your trials are never random. Even when you're going through the fire, Yahweh knows. He has set boundaries, even for the enemy. 2, Satan's accusation. Faith is only skin deep. Satan doesn't just accuse Job. He accuses all of us. He says they only serve you because you bless them. Take away the blessings and they'll curse you. In modern terms, this is like the world saying, believers only worship when the bills are paid, the house is calm, and the sun is shining. But what happens when that hedge of protection seems to fall? Do we still worship? That's the test. And this is where we see the difference between borrowed religion and personal relationship. The sons of Sceva in Acts 19 tried to cast out demons, saying, "In the name of Yahshua, whom Paul preaches." But the demon replied, "Yahshua I know, and Paul I know, but who are you?" Why? Because they had no relationship, just repetition. No power, just performance. Third, natural power versus supernatural illusion. Let me make this clear. There's no such thing as supernatural power the way the world sells it. Magic, energy, mysticism, those are deceptions. Yahweh gives natural power, rooted in creation, activated by faith. Whether it's the ability to pray, discern, speak truth, heal, or cast out demons, it all flows from your relationship with Yahweh through Yahshua the Messiah and by the Ruach Hakodesh. The moment you rely on titles, formulas, or spiritual shortcuts, you're operating like the sons of Sceva, powerless in the presence of real warfare. 4. Job, a metaphor for every righteous believer. Job wasn't just a man. He's a symbol of everyone who walks upright in a fallen world. He feared Elohim and shunned evil, but notice, his righteousness did not exempt him from testing. It invited it. Some of you are going through trials not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something right. The adversary is still roaming, still accusing. But remember, he needs permission to touch you. And even then, Yahweh sets the limits. Job lost much, but he never lost his faith. And in the end, Yahweh restored him double. 5. Why Yahweh allows adversity. Hebrews 12 verse 11 says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." Training, that's the word. Yahweh allows adversity not to destroy us, but to develop us. He allows us to meet the accuser, so we'll learn to stand in the authority he gives us. The trial is your classroom, the fire is your refining, and through it all, Yahweh is still in control. Conclusion: your faith is on trial, not for destruction, but for revelation. The book of Job opens like a heavenly courtroom. The accuser steps in, not to win, but to test. Your faith is being proven, not by how loud you shout, but by how steady you stand, not by what you say in blessings, but what you still believe in loss. Satan may accuse, trials may come, but Yahweh has not left you. And the hedge, though tested, was never completely removed. It was simply rearranged to reveal the foundation of your faith. If you're in a season of trial, I invite you to anchor your faith not in outcomes, but in relationship. Don't be like the sons of Sceva, speaking power you haven't walked in. Be like Job, holding on to Yahweh even when everything else falls away. Because the power to overcome isn't supernatural. It's spirit-filled, faith-fueled, and rooted in righteousness. My prayer, faith in the fire. Abba Yahweh, we come before you not with empty words, but with hearts laid bare. You are the Sovereign One, the author of all truth, the keeper of our souls. You see all things. You know our end from our beginning. Today, we stand like Job, some of us in sorrow, some in silence, some in suffering. But we declare, you are still worthy, you are still holy, you are still good. Though the adversary roams, though the storm rages, though the hedge has been lowered, we say, blessed be the name of Yahweh. Teach us to see the trials not as punishment, but as preparation. Let the fire refine us, not consume us. Let the accusations be silenced by our obedience. Let our faith be found genuine, not borrowed, rooted not in tradition, but in truth. Ruach Hakodesh, fill us, not with man-made power, but with divine strength. Let our authority come from relationship, not religion. Let our words carry the weight of heaven because they flow from intimacy with Yahshua. Yahshua, we want to know you, not just know about you, but walk with you, like Job, even through the valley. May our faith speak louder than our pain. May our endurance silence the enemy, and may our worship rise from the ashes of every test. Let the adversary see that we are not serving you for blessings. We serve you because you are the blessing. So, Father, strengthen your people today. Raise up warriors who don't fear the fire. Raise up sons and daughters who walk in identity, truth, and love. We trust you. We praise you. We surrender to you. In the name of Yahshua, the Messiah, amen.